Welcome in. It's the Second Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and we are recapping this week's Charles Schwab Challenge. Joining me to do just that, Greg DuCharme is here. What up, Gregors?
Oh, what's going on, Rick? What a week on the PGA Tour. This was a kind of a unique finish to an event in many ways. It was a snoozer for a while, then it was extremely exciting, then it got very close. A lot happened during this final round.
It was a snoozer, and then it was almost too exciting.
Yes, I think that's a fair way to put it. I mean, the finish, I know we'll get into the details, but my goodness.
Winning is hard, example, infinity, I think.
Yeah. What was this, like the 79th? No, that's not right. It wasn't. We've had at least 50 examples of that in the last 3 years. It's just a challenge. There's nothing easy about it. When you get a golf course that's really difficult, like this one, adds to the challenge.
Yeah. So let's. Before I forget, Mark is on his way back to the hotel, so we will inject Mark into this conversation. If and when he pops in, we will keep an eye on that. Let's talk about the golf course. 12 under par was the winning score. Colonial, was it up to the task that we were expecting? It played a shot over par on Sunday, which was the most difficult of the week. What'd you think of Colonial, Greg?
Colonial's not easy. I mean, looking through this, the course details, it's fascinating to me. The one that's really interesting, I mean, you had a 385-yard par 4 play as the most difficult hole on the golf course. It played nearly a half a shot over par. Number 17. It was 384 yards. Just fascinating. So, it's another example of how you can challenge players in different ways. There are trees on the golf course. There's very light rough that just wreaks havoc on these players. Some of that is the place where we're playing, right? The conditions this time of year in Texas are very firm and fast. That's the most challenging thing for PGA Tour players, and it showed this week and today.
There were two golfers who were leading the way going into Sunday. Ben Griffin, Matty Schmid. Ben Griffin was at 13 under par, Matty Schmid as well. They both shot over par, and they still finished 1-2 on the podium. Let's discuss how this all went down, and we'll start with Ben Griffin early in his round because, Greg, he destroyed holes 1 and 2 this week. He started eagle birdie on Sunday. So he played holes 1 and 2 at 8 under. He played holes 1, 2, and 3 at 10 under for the week, which means he played every other hole at just 2 under, getting off to a really good start. Well, it was critical on this Sunday, but I thought it would be a nice way to calm his nerves and all that fun stuff. But he destroyed those opening holes.
He did. And I think a little added ball speed really helped, specifically on number 2. Number 1 is the easiest hole on the golf course that, so many of the players were getting throughout the week. So, but it's nice to make a play at 4 under for the week. Number 2 is really impressive. It's not a gimme birdie by any means. Most guys are driving it up there about 50 yards from the green. He was able to get it into the greenside bunker in round 2. You got to take it over the trees. So it's not a difficult hole by any means, but it's difficult to make 4 birdies in a row on a hole like that because it requires a really precise tee shot to make your second shot easy. So he did a great job there. And especially in this round, it made the difference. You could argue the eagle at 1 or the birdie at 2 made the difference.
Spoiler alert. The birdie at 2 that he made was the last birdie he would make for the rest of the day. Things got a lot more difficult for Ben after that. Matty Schmid, opposite story. Struggles out of the gate. He does birdie 1, but like you said, Greg, that's a hole you got to get. He bogeys 2. He doubles 5. He bogeys 6. And now we're looking at the start of it for Matty Schmid, who had lost like 2 strokes putting over the first 6 holes. The thing that had allowed him to get to the top of the leaderboard was faltering right out of the gate on Sunday.
Yeah, coming into the round, he was outside the top 30 in every category except putting, where he was number one. He wasn't doing anything particularly well by PGA Tour standards. I mean, it's a beautiful golf swing to watch. He's obviously a very talented ball striker, but this week compared to the rest of the field, he was not on his game. He was not, beating the field with his ball striking. It's probably the best way to say it. He was beating the field with his putting. And we talked about it yesterday, Rick, on HQ. He's relying on this pretty heavily. And then you start to see it slip. Like he drives it into the left greenside bunker. Very challenging bunker shot at 2, but unable to get it up and down. Hits it over the green, then unable to get that up and down, and makes a bogey. Hits a bad tee shot at number 5. That leads to a double. Those must-make par putts stop going in. The 6-7 footers he just starts missing, and the pressure's mounting. And next thing you know, he's 3 over through 6, and the tournament looks like it's over.
Yeah, the final group, by the way, Ben Griffin, Matty Schmid, and Ricky Fowler played a combined 7 over par on this Sunday. And as we're kind of going through this chronologically, this is the part where this tournament just flips. Matty Schmid rights the ship and birdies 8 and 9. Ben Griffin had bogeyed 6 and 7. The multiple shot lead that those guys had built was dwindling, and we're seeing Scotty improve his position on the leaderboard. We're seeing Tommy Fleetwood improve his position on the leaderboard. We're seeing Bud Cauley jump up. We're seeing Aldrich Potgieter get into the mix. And now I'm starting to scratch my head, Greg, and think, oh man, is this no longer a 2-horse race? Is this thing wide open?
I thought coming into the day there was a small chance that one of these other guys could make a move. And you get into a final group and the mojo goes the wrong way. And on this kind of golf course, it can nip away at you pretty quickly. And I would say that it did. It really did. The last group did not play particularly well. And I thought that if they shot over par or if they shot even par, it opened up the field beyond a 2-horse race. But it was just so difficult for everybody else to make birdies. I guess except for Matty Schmid, because he made after being 3 over through 6, he made 5 more birdies. There just weren't very many pars to go along with that.
He made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 birdies from 8 on, and he also played that stretch at even par, by the way.
Yeah, it's correct. 1 under, right? 2 bogeys and 5 birdies.
Yeah. With 1, 2, 3. Yes. Sorry. Yes. 1 under. Right. 1 under.
So he ends up shooting 2 over on the day. It was just no momentum could be sustained. He makes a 40-footer at 9. It's like, oh, well, maybe the putter hasn't gone away. Then makes a 6 at number 11. It's like, my goodness. 13 and 14, tough situations, but he had putts for par that didn't go in. Here we go again. You can't lean on that. It's like every time he took a step forward, he was taking 2 steps back, but he was still getting closer to the lead. It was just a very, very strange thing to follow. Rick, I'll say this about watching Matty Schmid. There came a couple points where he was really getting close. It's like he might win this tournament. It's like, but what am I going to say about his game if he wins? It's like they're talking about it on the broadcast. He's hitting it too high. He refuses to hit a knockdown shot. He out of nowhere, he leads the field for most of the day. He was leading the field in strokes gained approach on Sunday, and he hit 9 greens. He ended up 3rd in that category. It was crazy.
So we're about to get into this sequence of events that's just hard to believe. So 15 under par, that's well gone. I mean, these guys are coming back to the field. Bud Cauley has already posted 9 under. He's in it solo 3rd. These 2 guys in the final group dragging Ricky Fowler along. Schmid makes birdie on 16. Ben Griffin makes bogey. So we've got our 2-shot swing there. Matty Schmid on 17 hits it into the greenside bunker on his approach shot, and it is half plugged, half fried.
Yeah.
Opted to play it. Mina, I don't know if I can get this. I'm going to try to share my screen and bring up the shot.
The cast.
The
tour cast.
Yeah, or at least like this part. So he played it right of the hole from there. I'll figure this out. But he plays it out of the bunker into the rough right of the green, which was an extremely curious decision.
Yes. Now they were talking about this on the broadcast too. He should have tried to hit the stick. I think you got to look at that situation and say, where's the best spot for me to chip in from? Right. I got to get it up and down. It's very unlikely that I do hit the stick. And so when you're weighing that decision, what's it like chipping from long of the green? I don't know if that's doable or not, but I will say from the right-hand side of the green where he did chip from, it was uphill. Now he ends up in a really bad lie, but he could have gotten it to a place where he could have putted. There was some wispy grass around a lot of these greens, and it was just a little left of where his ball ended up. It ended up in a terrible lie, but I don't think that was from the decision making. I think it could have ended up in a much better spot, and it was a chip straight up the hill that he could have made. So,
that is the perspective that I did not think of, which is where can I chip in from? I was looking at it like this. I'm in the bunker. I have a really crappy situation here. I'm not hitting the green. I cannot get this ball to stop and settle on the green. So what am I going to do next? And my initial reaction would be to never hit it to the short side. Right. So a short side on the PGA Tour, that's like a half a stroke, immediately like a half stroke penalty. So I thought, okay, well, he's playing a short-sided bunker shot to a short-sided chip shot. Why not hit it where they were saying, like, just hit it at the stick? It's going to go over the green. You're going to be chipping anyway. Okay, sure. There's like a 0.5% chance you hit the stick or whatever, but I just thought that would give him more room to work with. But maybe where he played from was an easier shot to chip in from.
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? Because there's a couple of statistical things you can look at. One, the closer to the hole you are, the better. That is a general rule. Now, when it comes to being short-sided, that can change when there's slopes. Short-sided on the PGA Tour for PGA Tour players is the challenge, and the difficulty comes from two things. One, how far do they have to carry the ball, and how much room do they have to stop it? So while this is, it's a right hole location and he's right of the green, it may seem like that's short-sided. And by definition, it is. Like missing left there would have been the wide side. But there's still, even from where he hit that bunker shot to, there's not a lot of ground that he has to cover before it gets on the green. So while yes, it looks short-sided, he really just is playing a short chip. It's not like a touchy flop shot where you need a lot of spin to stop it. The challenge there isn't stopping it. So, I didn't think it was quite as bad of a decision as they made it seem on the broadcast, especially seeing how uphill the chip shot was. I think that was a decent leave. And I wish I knew more about where Long would have left him. Like if he had gone in line with the flagstick. Is that a downhill shot with a lot of break?
Right.
Because if so, now you're really bringing 6 into play.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can add another voice to this conversation because I've got him. He's here. Mark Immelman. Can you hear us and can you see us?
I can hear you and I can see you. Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner. Deep in the heart of Texas, Mark Immelman has hit us with a howdy. How was your day? How was your week?
Well, you know what? I've heard that the stars at night are big and bright here in the heart of Texas.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much. Week was great. Colonial, the golf course, showed out. I mean, it was exactly how Ben Hogan would have liked this place. It was firm. It was fast. It was kind of hair-raising coming in. And I know perhaps It might have been some boring watching because there weren't many birdies made, but it was like a US Open in a way, and par was a really good score. And to Greg's point, I was listening in the green room. I had just gotten in. And I'm with you, Greg. I was actually watching the footage because we were waiting on 18 for a potential playoff. And I noticed that when Matty was in the bunker, he actually walked to the opposite side of the green. If he was taking a straight shot at the flag and had a look at the rough back there. And it was kind of gnarly in that area. And to your point, going downhill a little bit. And I thought Ben Griffin did very, very well from around that angle to get it up there close in two putts. And so I'm thinking, because look, I know Schmidt because he played on my Palmer Cup team back in 19 at the Alotian Club in the international team. And he's the kind of guy that leaves no stone unturned. And he's typically German. I mean, it's methodical and it's basically precision golf. Never makes a bad decision. And so he must have looked at that going, if I just punch it out here somewhere, I've probably got a better chance to perhaps pitch it in or at least not make 6. Because if he makes bogey, it's still possible. If he makes double out of there, then all of a sudden 18 is a wash, and there isn't the chance for the hysteria that eventually happens. So as far as I saw, now I don't know for certain, but just what I was watching on the broadcast from my monitor, he did look at the opposite side of the green.
There you go. That's great insight. I love that. And Mark, yeah, I can assure you, this was it was not boring to watch. I don't care if there were no birdies. These guys were battling it coming in. So you've jumped in right at the right time here because we are now getting to 18. Ben Griffin has got himself a nice little 2-shot lead. He's playing out of the right hand rough, and he hits a shot that, of course, Mark, just ever so delicately hangs on the edge of the bunker where he has to choke down. Again, winning is so difficult. He has to choke down basically halfway down his club and hit this thing from waist high to give himself a chance.
You know what? The great Ben Hogan once said, and I was just talking with my daughter Izzy, who was working for me on course this week. She just graduated. In the car ride home, she had assembled a number of Ben Hogan quotes for me to use if time permitted in the show, because we had Hogan's Alley naturally at Colonial, right? And one of the Hogan things was, I learn something from every single round of golf I play. And watching that thing there, the point was made to me as we were standing behind 18 green and waiting for the playoff and the potential loser interview for me. And my on-course guy, Tyler, says to me, he goes, it's amazing. If Matty had played first, and by our angle, it looked like he may have been away, and he pulls off that shot and knocks it in, that very difficult shot of Ben's becomes even more difficult because it wasn't easy. And what he hit from there with, fingers down in the steel of the club, difficult stance, lightning fast, firm greens. I don't think enough has been said about how good that third shot is. I mean, the putt was great under the circumstances, but to get that thing inside of 5 feet downhill from that horrible lie, that was some sort of shot. But I feel like going before Schmidt did that kind of helped him a little bit.
3 feet 11 inches, the official number. Keep that in mind in just 1 second, because Matty Schmid, who draws one just a little too much, Greg, and it precariously stops on that patch of rough between the green and the water. He is greenside, and just like this is vintage DP World Tour. If you ever watch DP World Tour stuff on Sunday morning, the most insane stuff always happens. This was straight out of the DP World Tour playbook because, of course, Matty Schmid chips it in and now forces Ben Griffin to make his putt to win.
Which, by the way, Mark, it's a fascinating point you bring up, because according to ShotLink, Matty Schmid was closer.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah, by about 10 feet.
All right.
Which is just, now that's not a rule violation. I guess technically Matty Schmid could have made Ben Griffin play it again if he wanted to. So it's not a rule violation.
Could you imagine? Play that again.
That would have sucked.
I've never seen that happen, especially in stroke play. But anyway, it's just a fascinating point. That shot was he had to flop. It was a flop shot. It wasn't a chip in. He had to flop it up there. It lands it on the green. It tumbles in. All I could think was, is Ben Griffin sitting there saying, I wish I just paid a little closer attention. Yeah. I just was wondering what was going through his mind.
I can tell you, Greg, because we were right behind the green. So, I was 30, 40 feet from the players. And when Matty held it out, I looked over at Izzy, and she just looked at me wide-eyed as if to say, holy cow, did that just happen? And the joke with us the whole week had been, someone needs to say, holy Schmidt on the broadcast. So I got this like, wow. And she was recording the entire thing, which was cool. And then I glanced over, because I'm next to Dottie, and I glanced at Ben Griffin. And he dropped his head slightly. And then I saw him actually kind of laughing to himself as if to say, okay, of course this is going to happen right now. Now I'm going to be a big boy and knock in this 4-footer. So, I think it was a mental masterclass by Griffin, because Trevor made the point. He was like, yikes, that putt of Ben's just doubled in length after Matty holes out, because that shot was incredible and the timing was unreal. Everything about the pitch in was, golf is about the timeliness of a shot. And it was on the 72nd hole.
Oh,
just pulling the whole thing off. It was unreal.
It was unreal. And that 3-foot, 11-inch putt probably felt like 11 feet, 3 inches. And Greg, I was impressed because he stepped right up there. Ben Griffin did, and he knocked it right in the center of the cup for his second PGA Tour victory. First was just 5 weeks ago alongside Andrew Novak at the Zurich Classic. This one all to his own. It jumps him up to 5th in the FedEx Cup standings. It gets him into everything. You're going to see Ben Griffin's name a lot moving forward.
Yes, and he's not going to turn it down, because the guy just plays every single week. I think the only 2 weeks he hasn't played this year were the Masters, which he didn't decide to take that one off. Okay, and,
that was decided for him.
Yeah, and Harbor Town, which he also didn't decide to take off. He was first alternate there, so I guess he did the alternate event. I forget which one it was exactly. Corrales, perhaps. He did decide not to play there. But other than that, he plays every single week. So you're right. You're going to see a lot of him. I wonder if he continues that. Maybe he decides to, optimize his schedule a little bit. He now has the opportunity to do that, should he like. I'll be very curious about that. But he's clearly not tired, because he was sharp. He was well-rounded. His game was complete. So impressed with Ben Griffin and the attitude, to Mark's point about him kind of laughing about that. It doubled in length for me, but it didn't seem to at all for him. He knocked it in there like it was a casual Tuesday game with a couple of buddies. So really impressive stuff from Ben Griffin.
Rick, I got to say this. I remember back in the day when Spieth came out on tour, which feels like ages ago, right? Mm-hmm. And he played every week and he was winning. And someone said to him, hey, you're going to take a week off? And he's like, I'm young. I'm playing well. They're giving me lots of money when I win. May as well just strike while the iron's hot. And Ben Griffin is that guy. He seems to be having a ball out there. I was out on the fairways in practice with him at the PGA Championship last week. And he was just loving life. And this week you could see him having fun with the whole thing. And I tell you what, now he's in these big events and he's way up the FedEx Cup rankings. And now he's probably going, now I'm a little bit behind in the Ryder Cup rankings, but I've got a lot of stuff to play for right now. So I may as well just keep going.
5th in the FedEx Cup standings. His OWGR is going to jump on Monday morning, and he's going to get access to a lot of these fields. We're potting through at the moment. We've got, I'm shipping out Patreon stuff. Well, probably not tomorrow. I think the post offices are closed on Monday, but probably on Tuesday. Yes, Mark?
Apologies. I've been running ragged the last few days. I'm shipping out the stuff from Truist when I get home to Columbus Tuesday morning.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So we've got Patreon stuff coming your way. If you want to get involved, the link is in the description. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, Greg, I want to get your thoughts on this because I think that I don't want to try to get into these guys' brains. It's usually a pretty scary place, but there has to be some side of Ben Griffin. And if I were him, this is how I would try to frame things is like, bro, you could be doing mortgages right now, which is what you were doing 4 years ago. If Matty Schmid buries one on you and you have to go to a playoff, like it's all good. Everything must feel like gravy right now for this guy.
It really is an incredible thing. I mean, it's clear that he's put in a lot of work to go from a place where you're thinking about quitting to playing as well as he has, as consistently as he has. You know, once he got his PGA Tour card, he has not looked back. He has been and I don't say this in a negative way at all, but a very average PGA Tour player, which is I'm saying it as a good thing, right? He's been securely kept his card every year. He maybe hasn't had a whole lot of chances to win, but has gotten some into the mix a couple of times here and there. And now all of a sudden you rattle off 2 wins in the same year. It's clear that there's a lot of effort that has gone into this. It's very clear with his distance, his ball speed has definitely increased. I mean, just heading into this week, his average ball speed's 175. He got one up to 184 and change today. So there has been a tremendous amount of effort. And I think it's probably more so than a bonus and a reward. Well, more so than a bonus. I think it's a reward for all the work that he's clearly put in.
The other man there, Matty Schmid, Mark, needed this one. You know, his top 10s this year, he's had a couple of them. They've all been alternate field events, which are not the big money makers, they're not the big points earners. But with this solo second, which at a time looked like it was going to be a lot worse than that, moves him up to 55th in the FedEx Cup standings. And at a time of the year where I know it doesn't feel like it, but there's not a ton of events left. This is a very important, critical time.
It was. And I'll be honest with you, knowing him from when he was an amateur in college and just seeing what he represented, the guy's like 6'2", he's strong. From watching the show, the people that watched it, you would see that he is like a robot out there. Barely ever shows every emotion. I made the analogy on a production call with my colleagues. I'm like, he reminds me of a Bernard Langer with power, because he's the same sort of demeanor, just unflappable, keeps the nose to the grindstone. And the reality is, with the golf swing he has, the game he has, I'm surprised it's taken him this long. Now, he has had some success over in Europe on the DP World Tour, but the PGA Tour is a different place. And he's just stuck to his guns. And there's this quiet sort of patience about him that he never seems like there's panic about what's going on. So maybe this is the finish that sort of unlocks him and puts him in that place where he has the confidence to swing a bit more freely. He's proved to himself now, playing in the final group 2 days in a row at a iconic venue in Colonial, that he can do it. So I'm expecting more out of him. That's the golfer I know. So yeah, it's been a bit disappointing to now, but I feel like now inside of the top 70, stay where you are, you're in the playoffs. Yeah, it's for Matty Schmid now. All of a sudden, I think he's got some clear air and a little bit of plain sailing coming up.
Well, Matty will reap the benefits immediately because he, via the Aon Swing 5, is in to next week's Memorial. He, along with Bud Cauley, Greg, who finished solo third, correct me if I'm wrong, started his year on a major medical. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Has now 4 top 6 finishes, all within his last 7 starts. I'll just rattle them off for you. The Players, the Valspar, the Texas Open, and now here at the Charles Schwab. He has missed 1 cut in 2025. It was in Puerto Rico, of all places. Bud Cauley is having himself a year.
It's an incredible thing. He's hitting the ball really well. It doesn't look like a player that's been injured at all. You know, he's been extremely steady, and it looks like the Bud Cauley of old. And so very, very, very impressed with his game. Very impressed with this round today. Unfortunately, he hit it in the water at number 13. But if it weren't for that one shot where he ends up making double, this could have gotten very interesting down the stretch, because he had it all the way up to 11 under. And it was on the pace for round of the day. Round of the day was 65. I believe that was Eric Von Rooyen. He had a chance to, beat that. And if he beaten that, he's getting into a playoff. So really impressive stuff. What I loved about watching Bud Cauley today was how many putts he had to make. It was 6 to 8 footers all day long. Even if it was a 4-footer, it was like 4 feet 11 inches. He'd hit good chips. It's 5 feet, and you got to make. And he made them all. He just kept pouring them in. Really, really impressive on the greens for Bud Cauley.
Let me try to put this into perspective a bit here, Mark, because this event is going to be his 11th of the year. It's going to push him over $2 million of official earnings. Last year, he played 17 events and made $600,000. He did not play in 2023. He did not play in 2022. The 2020-2021 season, he played once. So think about all the golf he has missed now, making up for it in a big way right now.
Well, Bud Cauley in college was a stud. I mean, he was that much of a stud that guys like Justin Thomas and company were like, this boy's legit. And we mustn't forget that, honestly, he nearly lost his life in that car accident. It was a grisly accident he was involved in. I mean, the car got completely mangled. And you hate to see something like that cut short a player's career. And for a while, there was concern he wouldn't come back. But he's got it. Bud Cauley is just a great player deep down ever since he was a kid. And I made the comparison early in the show this afternoon because I had Tommy Fleetwood. And I was like, Fleetwood's approach to the game is Hogan-esque. And Colonial today was asking you to play like Ben Hogan, from the fairway, in the middle of the green, 2 putts, get out. Do the smart thing all of the time, hit the quality shot, hit the ball flush in these gusty winds, because the winds were nasty and they were all over the show and gusting continuously. And 13, where he hit the ball in the penalty area, Fleetwood had a great one there. But then I watched guys hit it over the back of the green when the wind would flip. I watched guys standing the ball up and the wind would come up short in the bunker. And it was, even with that big green and that whole location with the big backboard, it was next to impossible because you just had to catch a gust wrong and you were in trouble. So I feel like him coming out of here with another big finish and now way up in the FedEx Cup rankings, this is Bud going, yeah, I'm kind of back. And I proved to myself I can contend. And I'm, again, like Matt Schmid, looking for more out of Bud Cauley because he is a blue chipper. I mean, the guy's got everything you need to play golf at the highest level.
50th in the FedEx Cup standings before the week started. I believe he's moving to 35th or 36th. So podium, Ben Griffin, Matty Schmid, Bud Cauley, and 2 notables in a tie for 4th. And Mark, I'm going to bounce it right back to you here because you mentioned him. It's Tommy Fleetwood. Rounds of 67, 67, 70, and 68 this week. He turned in 31. That is 4 under before bogeys on 11, 15, 17, and a very fortuitous just drip over the lip on 18 for his final birdie of the day. What'd you see from Tommy?
I saw us show up with CBS and I was on his group and I called him off is what I saw, sadly. No, but the reality is he makes a really solid par on 10. Then 11, he misses a tee shot and the bunker's down the left. A wind out of the right-hand side. I felt like that was the cardinal error because the fairway was playing so fast that you can get it to the green even at 600 plus yards. And so you're in the bunker, you lay up, and where that hole was cut was just impossible. It looked like a tabletop up there. It was baked out around the hole. And if you were landing a ball around the hole, even with a wedge from the fairway, there was no chance you were keeping it in there close. And he hit this pretty wedge just left of the flag, held it up against the right to left wind, so tried to stun the speed on the ball, and it still pitched through the back in the bunker, and there you cooked. So the soft bogey on the par 5. And then from there, he just kind of bided his time a bit, missed a really good opportunity for birdie on the par 3, 13. And then was sort of hanging around, but a really poor wedge from the fairway. Again, wind assisted on 15. 16, had a good chance. 17, stood a wedge up right on line in the front bunker, the Matt Schmid bunker. So as I was watching him play, I would sort of say, my gosh, this guy shot a couple over or whatever he did in the second 9, but really didn't play that well. Got gusted a couple times, didn't really make anything. Then on 18 gets the bonus topple in at the last minute. So as far as I'm concerned, Tommy Fleetwood looked good, but it just was on the wrong side of some wind gusts and that sort of thing when you least needed, when you're vying for a title.
The critics, Greg, will say that Tommy turned in 31, looked up, saw his name at the top of the leaderboard, and proceeded to make 3 bogeys before backdooring himself into another top 5 finish without a victory.
Yeah,
that's what critics will say. Not me. That's what they will say.
Yes, the critics will say that, and I totally understand it because it very much looks that way. But if you look at the best player in the world made only 1 birdie on the back 9. Birdie, the winner of this tournament didn't make a single birdie on the back 9. It was very difficult, as Mark alluded to. So I understand the challenge. It's disappointing. The bogey on 11 is very disappointing because if that goes the other way, now you've got a little momentum, and now you're in because Tommy was at 10, right? So he gets it if he's able to get it to 11. Let's say he hits the fairway, gets it up around the green the way Scheffler did, makes birdie there. He's at 11. Now you don't have to go crazy and charge, right? You can play smart. You can play just solid golf, and it gives you a chance coming down the stretch. Whether he would have felt that way at the time or not, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is it was just difficult. I don't think he melted away under the pressure. I think it was more just this was a leader's kind of day. You wanted to be near the lead. You don't want to have to make birdies on this golf course today.
Yeah, you're preaching, Reverend DuCharme. I want to say this, that the call you made on Fleetwood on 11, I feel like it was almost easier, or it was a better chance if you went for the green in 2 and missed it down the left. So you're playing up sort of the length of the green from left to right. Because if you're in the fairway as a PGA Tour player with your name on your golf bag, it's hard to aim some sort of wedge 40 feet left of a flag. It's almost impossible. So the natural bent is to go after that. And then you got this wind over your right shoulder at about 330, 4-ish. So if anything gets to turning, that thing's like a jet. And if you cut one up against the wind, then it gets stunned and it's in the front bunker, then you're in trouble there too. So you got the PGA Tour Pro going, cut the wedge up there, but it was impossible. So it was almost a half a stroke penalty if you were laying up to that hole location, in my opinion. I don't know what the numbers bear out, but that really is what I felt just seeing the whole play the way it was.
Tommy Fleetwood, 8 under par, same score as the number 1 player in the world. Greg, you mentioned him. Let's go there. It's Scotty Scheffler. The weekend was pretty great, 64-69. He opened up his final round with a birdie on 1. The only other birdie he would make would come on number 11. So not a lot of momentum, did not really ever apply pressure to the top of this leaderboard. But when the dust settles, picked up 3 strokes off the tee. That's 8th for the week. He led the field in approach, 7.3 for the week. And Scotty's going to show up at the Memorial next week, certainly in form.
Yes, I would definitely say that. This was a couple of bad putting days. And I wouldn't even, today wasn't a great putting day, but it was so hard to get the ball close. He was hitting some pretty solid shots, pretty solid approach shots. They're just ending up 18 feet away instead of 12. And that's where really this tournament was lost for Scotty Scheffler, was on Friday when he kept hitting it to 12 feet and hitting just terrible putts. He makes 3 putts on that back 9 alone, and he, instead of shooting 2 over there, shoots 1 under on that side. This is a totally different feeling for Ben Griffin coming down the stretch. A completely different feeling. If Scotty's at 11 under, kind of cruising along instead of at 8, it was just too difficult to go, and you could not force birdies out there today. You had to make long putts if you were going to do it. So it was a real challenge for everybody, including Scotty. The round Scotty played today would have been wonderful if he had a lead, or if he was, within 1 or 2 of the lead heading into this day. Because he does what he does. He plays the golf course the right way. So he's going to it definitely be the favorite, and it will probably be a very short odds heading into Memorial next week.
Well, let me channel my inner Kyle Porter here, Mark, because in his last 3 starts, Scotty Scheffler has lost to a total of three golfers.
I knew it was close to that. Yeah, look, I have no doubt he's the favorite next week and the prohibitive favorites. The way he played this week was great. And like I say, when you get a golf course playing like this, and there's a question here in the chat where asking about the front and the back nines playing how they were playing. The back was almost a full stroke harder than the front by the direction of the winds, the gustiness, and that sort of thing. And if you were in the rough, it was just a guaranteed flyer. I watched Emiliano Grillo on 15 hit a sand wedge that he landed about 15 yards short of the green, and it bounced up to hole high. That told you what the golf course was playing like. And so for a Scheffler, still the distance control is impeccable.
Yes.
And yeah, he said he struggled reading the greens, which I can see, because you had to, in certain situations, make account for the wind in your reads because the greens were so baked out. And so if you had down crosswind or whatever, it was hard to pick the real line because you're having to hit them so easy. And then if you hit it real easy, then the wind gets it, then you're missing. So I don't want to say it was fortune, but to Greg's point, it was certainly a golf course for the leaders. And if Scotty does just hang in there and make a bunch of pars, maybe one more birdie, that's a different animal. But everyone was at the mercy of the way the golf course and the wind was going. So as far as Scotty's going, he goes, I'm third. Yeah, I was beaten by a couple of guys. No stress. Next week, Jack's place, I got a good record there. I'm going to hit balls next to the flag, and they're going to have to come and beat me.
Well, our friends in Las Vegas have no concerns over Scotty Scheffler. Here are the early odds for next week. That is Scotty at plus 270 in a signature event. He was plus 250 this week in a larger field event with a lower strength of field. He's plus 270 with everybody else except Rory McIlroy. Xander Schauffele next, 15-1. Justin Thomas and Colin Morikawa both at 18-1. So, yeah. The guys in the desert, not too worried about.
No, those guys are pretty sharp
about Scotty Scheffler. Real quick, Mark, I wanted to ask you this. There was a couple of comments about this, and I think I know what it was, but just confirm that squeaking that we could hear on the broadcast is the train tracks. What's going on over there?
Yeah, right next to the golf course is the Trinity River, and right over the way are the train tracks, which Fort Worth is kind of the gateway to the west. And of course, our hotel's here in the stockyards, so it's on the Chisholm Trail. So you had all this livestock farming and stuff and trading around the area. And the train tracks run all the way through the stockyards, and they're still operational. And so there's all sorts of train activity going on all the time. And yeah, the squeaking is the wheels, the brakes of the trains that are just right next door to the golf course. It's pretty cool. It can get aggravating if you don't know what it is. But, when you're in Cowtown, USA, and you're playing at Hogan's Alley and you kind of know the history of the place, it's like, I feel like I'm way back in the 1940s, man, and I should be wearing like a Stetson and stuff. So it adds to the allure of this golf course in the town.
Howdy.
Yeah. And maybe next year we'll get that train yard sponsored by WD-40, and we'll get that squealing out of there. All right, well, gentlemen, I am ashamed to reveal the grid because our only victory. Wait till you see this. Armina, are you going to hit the grid? Our only victory was Armina's selection in a wine wager over me. Which I had Aaron Rye over JT Posted. She had JT Posted over Aaron Rye. Aaron Rye did not make the weekend, so I had to hear about this continually over the last 2 days. And now I owe a bottle of, I believe she said, Austin Hope Cab Sav to my wife.
Mina, wait, Mina. Austin Hope? No, we got to go Opus 1 or something like that. Come on now, you got to lay it on thick.
Yeah.
And by the way, it shouldn't
Mark.
be Rick Run good anymore. It should be Armina Run very good.
Let's protect my wallet here a bit. Mark, please. Thank you. She also, Greg, you'll appreciate this. She got the full treatment from Ricky Castillo, who was like 18th after he made the turn today. and then made about 2 doubles coming in, finished 50. She got the full, she doesn't usually follow guys that closely. She got the full treatment on this one.
Yeah, that's tough. I still don't want to, draw the attention away from JT Poston. I feel like we got kind of moved off of that one a little quickly.
Yeah, I wonder why.
But yeah, that's the hard thing about this. Top 40s, I love top 40s. They're my favorite place to go. And it's amazing when you get a decent number on one, you feel really good about it, how often they end up right around it. It's like, you think of top 40, you're like, all they have to do is make the cut and not come in last.
Yeah.
And it's just not, there are so many guys that end up finishing T52 once you've had them for a top 40. Just incredible. So welcome to the club, Mina.
Castillo's back 9, bogey on 10, double on 11, bogey on 15, double on 17.
He's playing like a millionaire. He doesn't need the money on the way in.
Yeah, exactly. He's playing like
he's only playing for trophies.
I like that. Gentlemen, next week, the Memorial. Now, that's a signature event, but it's one of the sub-signature events that has a cut, right? Because so we got to come up with another name for those types of signature events, but we are going to get a cut next week. The only guy not playing for the most part is Rory McIlroy. This is a packed portion of the schedule, Mark. You're on the road every single week. He was going to have to take a week off somewhere. Ends up being the Memorial for the first time since 2017. He's going to opt and play Canada instead.
Yeah, well, the good news is Rory's in Canada. Ludwig, I see, is in Canada as well. So the field there is shaping up to be pretty cool. And yeah, Jack's place next week. The reality of the schedule, like it said to me, you have Byron Nelson a couple of weeks ago prior to the PGA Championship in Dallas. Byron Nelson, legend of the PGA Tour. The field was thinnish. Thankfully, we've got the hometown boys and Scotty and Jordan who support the field and added a little luster to the thing. And then this week, same thing. I mean, Ben Hogan is an icon in the game, and the field was a bit thin because you've come off a major in the PGA, then you've got Jack's event, and then you've got a US Open just around the corner. And so you've got to take breaks somewhere. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yeah, to me, it's a function of what happened with the addition of Liv to the mix, and we're not gonna see the big stars in all the signature events, but they'll be around. So it's cool to see how Rory is sprinkled in Canada again, because he's loved up there, and the fans shout en masse for that event to see him and the Canadians play.
TPC Toronto this time, which will be fun. Greg, yes, it is a gift and a curse to have a schedule like this, where you've got great events, big purses, major championships. But Mark is right. Like the Colonial's been like, that's been on the schedule since what, 1934 or whatever it was. I mean, this is like, you also have the historic ones that are not necessarily getting the love.
Yeah, it happens. And there's no other way around it. If you're when your goal is to get all the best players playing together more often, this is the only way that it's going to happen, because they're not going to play every single week. They're just not. And we want them to play at their best when they play. So I like the fact that players have a choice in their schedule, but when you add signature events and you have such a big discrepancy in points and purses, you're setting the schedule for the players in a way. Now, there are players like Scotty and Rory who can kind of design their entire games, their entire schedules around 4 events. Their place in the FedEx Cup is very secure. So, they're not counting FedEx Cup points. They're not counting dollar bills either. They're counting trophies. Very few players in professional golf play where the tally is how many trophies you win in a year.
Yeah.
So, this is just unfortunately the way that it is at this point. There's good that comes from it. I think there's a lot of evidence to support that it works, whether you like it or not. Look at the ratings that we've had on the PGA Tour. I mean, this has been a big year for the PGA Tour. So it's not the way that I would design it, but it's hard to argue. It seems to be working.
Okay, gents, we'll do it again next week on Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. But any final thoughts before we get out of here on the Charles Schwab or anything else that might have happened this week?
Yeah, I'm going for margarita.
Good for you. We're going to get you there right now. Producer Mina does all the hard work behind the scenes, and apparently she wins the bets. That right there. Mark Immelman, Greg DuCharme, I'm Rick Gehman. This has been The Second Cut. We'll catch you next time.